We're officially halfway through the year, and if you're thinking, where has the time gone, and like, why are my goals the way they were at the beginning of the year, then this episode is for you. Today, I'm going to be sharing, my reflections in 2025, thinking about goals, and also how to smash your goals for the rest of the year. So, if you want some inspiration, if you want to hear about my experience, if you want to hear about the frameworks that have worked for me in like setting goals and achieving them, then this episode is just for you. I'm going to go a bit different this time. I'm talking, generally, and then I'm going to apply these things to career goals as well, because I feel like, one, the more fulfilled you are in other areas of your life, the more fulfilling your career can be, and two, these frameworks are interchangeable, whether they're like setting personal goals or setting career goals. And so I'm going to be sharing all of that goodness with you. Before we get into the episode, just going to share my reflections for the week. I'm still in New York. If you missed the last episode, I talked about being in New York with Datadog for the Dash conference. I'm still here, very much in my hotel room, trying to film this literally on my way out the door. But I'm really grateful to be here at this time of the year, because I think, halfway into the year, I really want to spend some time just like reflecting, resetting. I have my career journal with me. If you don't know, I have like a thriving career journal that I've created, and it's really something that I use religiously in my day-to-day work, but then also it has like prompts to plan your year and plan your quarter and stuff like that. And so I'm going to be going through that exercise, and so this episode is also sort of like a prerequisite to that, to just like reflect on what has worked, share some of my lessons, and then kind of go into that exercise later in the day, or later in the week. So I'm really excited to be recording this episode, even, for me personally. That being said, let's get into like 2025 and, what has happened so far. So I think to start with, I'll just like, share some of my highlights of 2025. This year, I really wanted to be able to like grow my business, run a few workshops. I've been doing one-on-one coaching, but I wanted to do group setting stuff. I wanted to like start this podcast as well, which you're listening to. And I wanted to just like, I guess, expand and grow my team. For the most part, like that has gone well. I've definitely had like lots of challenges, especially on the team, front, and finding the right folks to work with. But at the same time, I've like found amazing folks who have like believed in the vision, contributed to the vision. So it's been a mixed bag there, but you're listening to the podcast, so that's definitely happening. And there are other things that I'm just like grateful for, actually being able to run, I think, 2 workshops at the beginning of the year, sitting down with a few tech professionals and talking about goal setting and helping them set goals, to start the year, to kick 2025 off. So I'm really excited, that has happened, even though I'm not quite like there with my business goals. I've gone a long way. Actually, I signed my first corporate client as well. That honestly has been such an exciting journey for me. So yeah, some things didn't work out, but some things also did. So that's good. In my career, one of the things that I've always wanted to do was to like be able to like lead and grow multiple teams. I went from leading 1 team to 3 teams this year, leading like more senior engineers as well in my organization, pretty much like leading like a smaller org within my group. And I'm right now like hiring a manager. Like there's so many amazing things that are happening in my career, and I love that I'm just able to kind of see the goals that I set start to like come to fruition, and see that the long-term goal is in the making, and I love that for me. Personally, some of the things that I really wanted to do this year were just like get much better at like reading my Bible, spending time with God in my spiritual life. And that's something that honestly I'm really, really grateful that I've been able to do. One, just like spending time in my own reflections, getting to know God more, getting to read my Bible. So for the longest, I always thought that I'm never going to do all these like Bible in a year plans, because you never really get enough time to, read and understand the word. I've just been deceiving myself. Anyways, I've been so consistent with reading my Bible. I don't even know how many like books I've read at this point in the Bible. And honestly, it's so much fun to just like actually get to know these things, to learn about God. And then obviously like my church is really amazing, and so being able to like read the Bible, we've been going through like the book of Genesis. Like if you know anything about the Bible, we've been going through the book of Genesis in church, and every time like I attend a church service, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is mind-blowing to like have read the passage, have understood it in my own way, and then see my pastor like elaborate on it. honestly, amazing, top 10 feeling. And then the other thing that I really wanted to do was to work on my, I guess, sense of style, my physical, like how I look. So lose weight. I lost like a bunch of weight last year, but I think I lost the bulk of the weight this year. I probably now like lost about like 15 kg, which is crazy. But I had these exercise goals that I wanted to work towards, and I had style goals as well. So if you're seeing me today, then you know that I'm taking like, actual steps towards that. But anyways, like, these are some of the reflections that I have like for 2025. Obviously, like, it's been an amazing year for me all around, and I know that part of this is just like being more intentional with my goals and how I've been working towards them. So I'm going to share what has worked for me, my lessons, and I'm also going to take all of this and share how that applies to your career as well. So, getting into it, the one thing that I would say that you need to start with is your North Star or your mission statement. You need to like figure out what is working for you as a person. What are the things that you want to do? How do you want to show up in life? What is the thing that you're working towards that everything must align to that? So, when we think about ourselves as people, we shouldn't just like think about ourselves in like one dimension. So I'm a mom, I'm somebody's wife, I'm somebody's daughter, I'm somebody's friend, I'm somebody's employee, I'm a business owner. I can't just like think about myself in one dimension as like, oh, this career person that has to achieve all these career goals. No, I have to like achieve all these things side by side. So the question is like, what are my guiding principles, or like what is my North Star? And to answer that question, I've come up with like 4 things that I think you need to understand to be able to to be able to start to like define your North Star. The first thing I would say is like, what are your values? Like, what matters most to you? The reason why this is really important is because when you think about values, when you think about all the goals that you have, like, your values guide how you would achieve these goals or how you would go about achieving the goals. So for example, where somebody might be like really ruthless about like getting money and making money, if that is not your value, right? If your value is to be, a certain kind of person that is a bit more like measured in their ambition, you might not go about things as ruthlessly as somebody else might. Same goal, maybe to be wealthy, to be rich, to be relevant, but different ways of achieving it. So like, that's where your values come in, and it's really important to know what is important to you as a person, to be able to define how you go about achieving your goals. And this is also a way to like cut off things in your life that you don't want to do. Like, there are things where you're like, okay, this is not something that you will find me doing. It helps you to make certain decisions a bit easier as well. The second thing that I would say you need to think about are your strengths. Like, what is working for you already? Like, especially when you think about your career, like, you don't need to, especially for folks who maybe might be transitioning, there are things that are natural to you. There are things that you've already built up that you can use as a leverage everywhere. So if, for example, I know that like one of my strengths is being able to simplify things and teach, and so I'm like, okay, you know what, I'm an engineering manager, I'm going to use my strength and my knowledge as an engineering manager and my passion and my ability to teach to kind of come up with my own business where I'm a coach. You see? So being able to like define your strengths is also like a way to kind of see what works for you. What do you have that you can easily lean into and leverage to achieve your goals? The third thing that I will talk about are like, what are your opportunities or interests? Like, so what are the things that you want to grow in? Because as human beings, like, we're not created to be static, right? So you're always evolving. There's always this like thing where, most of us are thinking, okay, what else can I do? So your interest might show you that, oh, maybe I have the interest in like building up more leadership skills, so I should be exploring stuff like that. Or I have interest in, let's say, like operations. So like, are there things in my life that I can add to start to like build up that skill and build up that interest? And you never really know what you'll find along the way, but your opportunities and the things that interest you could be areas where you find space for growth. Now, the last thing that I'll talk about is expectations. In the world of career, like, I usually refer to this as like your career ladders, like career expectations, usually that organizations have. But expectations could also just be like, what are the things that you are responsible for, right? If you're a parent, if you're a friend, if you're, someone's child, what are the things that they're expecting of you? What are the things that your employer is expecting of you? all of these things help you start to like converge to like, okay, these are the things that are important to me, these are the things that I can leverage, these are the opportunities I'm looking to find, and these are the expectations that I'm looking to fulfill. You start to kind of figure out what is important to you as a person and use that to define your North Star. I'm going to link some resources in the show notes so that you can actually like go through some of the exercises that I recommend, because there are things that I usually do with my clients, with people who attend my workshops, and I'm going to make that available to you so that you can go through this exercise in defining your North Star. Now, once you've mapped out your North Star, you have a good sense of like, okay, this is who I am as a person and this is how I want to show up in the world. And that's kind of the start of everything. Now, once you have that, you can start thinking about the different areas that you want to set goals to be able to achieve your North Star. So in my own case, like I broke them down into my spirituality, my self-care, my friendships and relationships, parenting, my business and my career. And then I started to think about, for this year, what are the things that I want to do? So in my business, like how many clients do I want to have? What are some of the programs that I want to roll out? I just started thinking, long-term, high level. So this is not where you get specific. It's kind of the dreaming phase of like, okay, you know what? This year, I would like to lose 20 kg. This year, I would like to be more stylish. There's no specificity to this part of things because you're still in like dreaming. So you're coming down from that mission statement on North Star to like, these are the high level goals that I want to achieve. Once you have that, the next thing that you want to do is start to like think about how to break them down into actionable steps. So this is where your SMART goals come in, right? So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Honestly, like I'm not very like hung on the acronym, but the framework kind of helps you do this anyway. So if you're thinking about, oh yes, this is yet another like SMART goal thing, don't get too hung up on that. But I'm just kind of using that to relate to what most people think about. So when you start to get specific, you want to break them down into, let's say, quarters, right? So quarters are like every 3 months. What are the things that you want to be able to achieve or to be able to do to achieve this goal? So for example, if I say to myself at the beginning of the year that I want to work towards a promotion, I need to be thinking about like Q1, these are the projects or these are the things that I want to do, Q2, Q3, Q4, and be able to like break them down so that I can focus only on the quarter that I'm in. The reason that this is really helpful is that goals and the vision like is probably going to be overwhelming for you when you think about, oh, I want to do this big thing by the end of the year. You might be feeling like this is unachievable, but by the time you break them down into smaller chunks, by the time you break them down into quarters, not only are you able to like focus on one thing or like a smaller set of things, you also have a time frame when you need to like be working on this thing. So that also puts that urgency on things of like, oh, I need to be able to do this by the end of Q1. The reason why I also like quarters as well is because you also have like, it's 3 months, right? So you're not like, it's not as strict as like planning for a week or planning for a month. You still have like some leeway of like, I'm going to check in, at the beginning of the quarter, see how things are going, at the end, at the middle, and then at the end. You have a lot of time to really work on things. So one of the things that I learned or decided to pick up from last year is that I don't want to continue to live with things that frustrate me, especially things that you can easily learn. So for example, like I'm a parent and I'm a first-time parent. So there's a lot to learn about, parenting and toddlers and stuff like that. And so I was like, instead of being frustrated with, all the challenges that I have, I'm going to make more of an effort to like learn. So I'm going to read books and stuff. So in Q1, I had a book that I set out to read. In Q2, maybe there are other resources that I want to check out. In Q3, I want to maybe like, start to like build my kids community. So maybe I want to, have more activities. I want to have more friends for my kids. These are things that I literally write down in my goals, even down to things like every other month, I want to plan a friend date. So I want to be more intentional about like my friendship. So in Q1, I'm going to plan, or every quarter, I'm going to plan at least one friend date. That is how you're able to like achieve that goal of, let's say, making and having meaningful friendships by the end of the year. So you kind of get the gist, like look at the long term and then break them down into quarters, what you'll be able to do. Now, the one thing that I did very differently this year was try to differentiate what is going to be a daily habit versus something that is a goal, right? Now, I talked about fitness, I talked about spirituality at the beginning of the episode, because when I started like marking like what I wanted to do or how often I wanted to do these goals in the quarter, I realized that for me to be able to hit my fitness goals, it has to be something that I'm doing daily. So what is the baseline that I want to be able to do daily to hit my fitness goals? For me, that is, I have to work like 8,000 steps a day. I have to do at least 30 minutes of active movement or active exercise. I have to hit a certain calorie goal. And I have to, based on my Apple Watch, I have to close all my rings essentially. For my Bible and for my spirituality, it meant that like every day I needed to spend at least 15 minutes praying and reading my Bible. And so I found like tools that would help me. In the case of my fitness journey, I got my watch, restarted, I set my goals, and I'm like, every day I need to achieve this goal. In the case of my reading my Bible, I got a Bible in a year plan that has like daily readings, right? So I try to differentiate what is a daily habit versus what are things that I, maybe need to do maybe once a month or once a quarter. So maybe like self-care stuff I have to do once a quarter, things around friendship I have to do once a quarter. But there are other things that I needed to build up the habits, because that is the only way that I'm going to sustainably be able to achieve that goal, right? So once you break them down into quarters, you then kind of, have that marker of, this is something that I want to do daily. This is something that I want to do, monthly. This is something that I want to do bi-monthly, or this is something that I want to do once a quarter. Right. So once you have that, the next thing is, how do you keep yourself accountable? One of the ways that I keep myself accountable is by setting reminders and dates with myself to review my goals. Now, I'm not as religious with this, but every time I see that calendar invite, I remember that, oh, Ibukun, you haven't scheduled that massage for the quarter. So I go into, my provider and like, okay, I need to schedule this in before the end of the quarter. So even if I don't get to like sit down and review the goals, it's a reminder for me of the things that I want to be able to do, right? My recommendation is definitely sit down, have that time of reflection. But if you're in a really busy season, knowing that, okay, I have these goals, I have this, time with myself to make sure that I'm being accountable, to make sure that I'm delivering on my goals, you need to be able to, have those times set in. Now, one of the things that I like to do during this time, so like the goal for these review sessions is to actually figure out what is working, what is not working, what are the things that I need to change, what are the things that I need to add, is there anything that basically needs to shift for me to really be able to achieve this goal. So you need to have these times that are scheduled with yourself to really review and see that things are going well, and to also get that time to reflect and sit with yourself as well. It's a great time to think about the things that have gone well too, so that it's not like, oh, you're just thinking about the bad things, or you're just thinking about the things that need to change, but also thinking about the things that have gone well, like checking off things on your list of like, oh, I've done this, I've done this, I've done that. It's also a good way to keep yourself motivated, as you're working on these goals. Because let's not lie, it's not easy to be actively working on multiple goals on multiple fronts in your life, but you can reward yourself with that like 1 hour time where you're just sitting down, reflecting on what has gone well, thinking about what to adjust and what to change, or what is coming up. This is also a good time to figure out like, oh, are there things that I need to schedule? So for example, if I have appointments that I want to do on a quarterly basis and I haven't done that up to the point of that review, I'm going to take that time maybe to like say, okay, let me actually schedule all these appointments that I need to. So it's really so much like a time to, maybe get some things done, reflect on things, make sure that things are going well, and also celebrate yourself as well. So I like to kind of think about planning periods as like a start, middle, and end of the period. So for example, if I'm planning on a quarterly basis, so I'm going to start at the beginning of the quarter, middle of the quarter would be like my review, and then end of the quarter I'm going to do a review as well to see how that whole quarter has gone, and then plan forward. I try to set like monthly reviews for myself. So every maybe first of the month, or every start of the month, the first weekend in the month, I have these reminders that go out to help me with basically keeping myself accountable. Now, because internal or personal accountability can be challenging, this is where the last step comes in of having like external support. So one of the things that really made my fitness journey easier this year was that like I had friends who were going alongside me. So we both had goals of like, we want to lose this amount of weight, and we'll check in with each other like, oh my gosh, I'm like 70 kg. Oh my gosh, I'm like 60 something kg. And like, it was really fun to just like have somebody who was working on the same thing with me, but also to just like have that accountability, because it would be like 10:30 p.m. and my friend would come in and be like, Ibukun, you don't have enough steps, like stand up and start walking, or like, Ibukun, you've not slept, like you haven't met your step goals. So it's really fun, to be able to work on things alongside other people when you have the same goals, or to have people who keep you accountable. So for me personally, I have a therapist and a coach who I'm like, okay, so this is my goal. And then, we set these like short intervals, like we meet every 2 weeks, and it's like, okay, this is the thing that I said I would do last time, and this is the thing that I've done, or this is the thing that I said I will reflect on. It's really good to be able to have that support as well. So that's also something that can be really helpful. You can also have your spouse who is like cheering you on. So I have my husband who is like, okay, you need to go to the gym, or in fact, like I use his gym membership, so literally in the morning it's like, okay, are you going to the gym so that I can go? And so it's really good to have people who are supporting you, to have a good support system, because this is really one of the ways that you can continue to like stay accountable or to stay true to your goals when your own personal will is low. So for example, I had been learning to like swim for the most of last year, and we went to Mexico at the end of the year, and we were going to like snorkel, right? So it was like we went with our kids, so both of us couldn't go into the water. So it was like, who would go? And at that point I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm so scared, I don't want to go, I've never been in the ocean. My husband was like, what? No, like you have been learning to swim for the past 6 months, this is your time, you need to be in the ocean like immediately. And which was really good for me, because if it was just me, trust me, I would have given in to the fear. But the moment I was in the water, I was just like, oh my gosh, thank God I had somebody to just like cheer me on, even when I didn't believe in myself. And honestly, it was one of the top 10 experiences that I had last year. So having that accountability, people who believe in you, people who are on the same journey as you, people who you pay, like my coach or my therapist. Even this last year as well, like I worked with a stylist, because I was like, okay, this thing I haven't figured it out on my own, how can I get some help? So figure out the help that you need, figure out the support that you need, and get it, because that is one way that you'll be able to keep going when your will is weak. Now I'm going to talk about very briefly like how this relates to your career. So for the first part, we've talked about setting that North Star and your mission. So with your career, same thing, you can think about like, what is my long-term goal? What are the things that I would like to continue to do in the long term? What are my career strengths? What are opportunities that I have in my organization, outside of my organization, in my industry? What are the values that I have for the types of organizations that I want to work with, for the type of people that I want to work with? And then what are the expectations of me from the industry, from my career ladder? What are the things that I need to be working towards? The more you can get clear on that, the more you have clarity on your career goals and your career journey as well. Once you have that North Star, then the next thing you need to do is like figure out what you need to do to get to the next level, get that new job, transition into your new role, or whatever career goals you have. But getting that clarity, the overall like North Star, you can now set. So for this year, so for the rest of 2025, what is that career thing that you're working towards? That would be something to get very clear on. Now we have Q3 and Q4 left in 2025. What are the things that would make up your career goal by the end of the year? So for Q3, what are the steps that you need to start taking? For Q4, what are the projects that you need to work on? You need to be able to break this down and figure out, again, what are the things that you need to do as habits? So for example, being very clear, like one thing that I do week to week for my career is I prioritize everything that I need to do. Like I sit down on Monday with my journal, literally, and I'm like, this is my priority for the week, and make sure that I deliver on it, because I know that priority for the week leads up to my priority for the month, to the quarter, to the year. And so it's very important to like figure out like what is the habit that you want to build to have like a successful career, and then what are some of the things that are more like periodical, so like maybe monthly or quarterly. So another example would be on a, let's say, bi-weekly basis, you have to have a meeting with your manager. On a monthly basis, you have to have like a goal checking session with your manager to make sure that like you're working towards that like 6-month goal, for the end of 2025. Now, if you're trying to get a promotion, you should have already started at the beginning of the year, but I'm going to be kind and say this is the time to start discussing it. Please don't wait till like Q4 to ask your manager, so am I going to go up for a promotion? No, this is the time to get very clear on that goal of having a promotion and align to start working towards that. Now, once you've done the breakdown, the next thing you need to do again, schedule your reviews. Schedule your reviews with yourself, schedule your reviews with your manager to make sure that you're on the right track, or with anybody who you are accountable to. So that's where your personal accountability comes in, and that's where the external one comes in. I'm gonna speak specifically to career goals, because whenever I meet people and they come for coaching, I find that a lot of people don't actually have scheduled one-on-ones or scheduled meetings with their manager. I'm like, how do you go throughout your career, like a month, 2 months, 3 months, and you haven't had a career conversation? Let's be for real. This is such a crucial part to be able to like align with whoever is responsible for your career growth, right? Now, don't get me wrong, you are 95% responsible for your career growth. Okay, maybe let me say like 90% or 80%. That remaining 20% is also very key. Remember the 80-20 principle, because you can work hard. If you're working on the wrong things that your manager doesn't agree with, you might end up not getting that like goal that you're working towards. So align with the people who you're accountable to, align with the people who can support you on your journey, whether that's your manager, your mentor, your coach. Make sure that you have the support that you need to be able to achieve these career goals. And then remember that most good things take time. So you're gradually working towards these goals and, building on them. Now, that is like a very quick run through of general goal setting and how this applies to career goals. I know this was like a very quick one, but what I'm going to do is provide as many resources as I can in the comments. I'm literally giving you the ins of what I share with my coaching clients, with my, people who come for one-on-one coaching or group coaching. So I need you to really take your time with this. If you're finding, it challenging, then definitely like hit me up, reach out to me, because this is something that I also, would work with folks on to make sure that like we're setting the right goals and we're working towards them. And then also giving them that accountability and support through coaching as well. So I'm about to head out to day 2 of the Dash conference, which I'm really excited about. But I really, have loved sitting down and chatting with you guys, especially knowing that like we're reaching that halfway mark of the year and it's really time to lock in and get very serious about your goals. So if you've enjoyed this episode, as usual, don't forget to like share and follow and rate the podcast wherever you listen to it. I'm also going to put all our socials in the show notes as well, so that you can subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and all that good stuff. And I hope you have an amazing week, and I will see you next week. Bye!